What's going on, guys, and welcome back to F122 for My Team Career Mode Season 3, round number 9, the Hungarian Grand Prix. We go into contract renewal phase for this second half of the season. Lando Norris has thankfully accepted our approach, and we go for the easy kind of, less risky option with signing him, and he signs the contract. So we have renewed Lando Norris's contract for the second half of this season, so that's always good. I didn't really want to switch teammates this time around. I didn't want to do it last time either, but Schumacher didn't accept our contract in season 2. Just going through the activity timeline as usual, pretty much just same sort of stuff as usual there. We're going to try and put a chassis upgrade on the car, which is actually an ultimate upgrade, so that if that does come through, and it is supposed to come through before this race weekend, that will help our car out massively, and it does come through. And I mean, although it does help, it doesn't really change our position on R&D at all. We are still just ahead of Alpine, behind McLaren now, who have actually dropped from 2nd to 4th, because Ferrari and Mercedes have both jumped up a little bit there. McLaren not bringing in any upgrades to this race weekend, so yeah, Mercedes though back up in the top 3 teams, so be interesting to see what happens there. So Q1 in Hungary here. This is a track that I have had quite a lot of bad luck with in the last few times we've been here. I'm pretty sure 2 times at least that we came here in F1 2021 I had mechanical failures. I think the one time in 2021 that I didn't have a mechanical failure, didn't have a particularly great race anyway. I can't 100% remember how we did here last season. We didn't come to Hungary in season 1, but we did in season 2. I don't remember how we did then, but from what I remember, it wasn't amazing. Out of Q1, we ended up P12, just kind of struggling to get the pace out of the car. Biggest biggest surprise from Q1, Nicholas Latifi is out in that Alpine. Now, I know it's Latifi, and I mean, I expect him to be out in Q2, but for Latifi to be out in Q1 and P20 at that as well, that is not good for Alpine. So yeah, I'm interested to see what Alpine are going to do next season with Latifi, because he has massively been letting the team down. And I mean, I think just because, Alpine were at an all-time high at the end of season 2. They literally had a 1-2 finish in the final race, but they've just kind of gone downhill this season, probably largely because Latifi hasn't been putting in the performances that he's needed to. In Q2, Lando Norris goes P2, we end up P9, so we do just about sneak into to Q3. It was very difficult though. I was absolutely pushing my car as hard as I could, and with that, Lance Stroll is out of qualifying, so big one there. Stroll not performing where he should be. He had a decent start to the season, but he seemed to have kind of tailored off in this middle half of the season. So Q3, and I wasn't really sure how I was going to do here, because I felt like Q1 was decent, but it wasn't my best. Q2, I pushed quite a bit more, went a couple of tenths quicker, but I really didn't think that I had anything more in the tank for Q3. I pushed so hard in Q2 that I honestly, if I could just match the time I did in Q2, then I think I'd be pretty happy. Pretty sure I did like a 1:15.4, I think was what I did in Q2. So if I could at least match that, I'd be pretty happy. I was expecting to be probably 9th or 10th in this session. Gasly, the only one that I really thought, okay, maybe I can beat him, because he's kind of the outlier here. The Alpine, the AlphaTauri, sorry, should be quite a bit slower than us, but we've seen in the past that Gasly definitely outperforms that car, and in qualifying he can do a really good job getting to Q3 quite often, but then in the race he does tend to fall back because the car doesn't have the pace. We end up doing a 1:15.5, so it's a 10th off my best time. So I went for another run, but as we come round this corner here, get a little bit of a twitch on round there, get up on the curb, and that spins the car around. So I was slightly up on my time there, but just a little bit of a mistake from me means that we will not set a better lap time, and in the end it is going to be P10 for us. But the big one here is Lando Norris, P2 on the grid. That is very good from him. He's on the front row, beating both McLarens, both Ferraris. That is big for Norris. So let's see what he can do in this race, and let's see if we can have a better race than we did qualifying.
Welcome to Budapest once again for another round of Formula One action. Historically, a good race for first-time victories, with Button, Hill, Alonso and Heikki Kovalainen all reaching the top step of the podium for the very first time right here. 14 corners then for our drivers to navigate at the 2.7-mile Hungaroring today. It's 6 lefts and 8 rights around a lap here, with average speeds in the region of 120 miles per hour. So with the race not far away from starting, here's what today's grid rundown looks like. Lando Norris will lead us away from pole position, and it's Valtteri Bottas that completes the front row. As we continue through the rest of the grid today, we have Leclerc, Sainz, George Russell and Hamilton, Gasly, Shaw, Stroll and Max Verstappen, Albon, Magnussen, Yuki Tsunoda and Joe, Mick Schumacher, Ricciardo, Sebastian Vettel and Robert Schwartzman, Latifi, Ticktum, Ocon and Liam Lawson. That's it then, it's time to go racing as we head down trackside for today's race. It's race day yet again, and joining me for a chat is Natalie Pinkham. Now, our racers are certainly in for a rough day today. What will you be watching for as they go down into turn 1?
Well, the start of the race is always one of the most nerve-wracking parts. You have to hope that everyone is able to get a clean start. And this is possibly the trickiest part of the entire race. So many drivers in such a small space. And finding your braking point into turn 1 as well is testament to the driver's skill that there aren't more incidents.
Alright, so a bit of a shake-up here. Max Verstappen takes a grid penalty, which means that Lando Norris is on pole position, and I've said it before, I keep stats in the background of how many wins, how many pole positions and stuff drivers have got. So even though Verstappen was quickest in qualifying, because he's got a grid penalty, Lando Norris gets the pole position here. Now, I don't think it's his first pole position, because he had a few pole positions with McLaren last season, but it's his first pole position for TGL Motorsport, and it's TGL Motorsport's first pole position, so that's big. We're also P8 because we move up a couple of positions too, but we have 2 rather fast Red Bulls starting behind us to 5 red lights, and we are underway for the Hungarian Grand Prix in Season 3. Stroll behind us is starting on the soft tyre, so he gets a very good start. It's a pretty poor start for us altogether, to be honest, because Verstappen comes charging through. Magnussen's also having a look too, but we go for a big dive on the inside of a lot of cars through turn 1. We find ourselves side by side with Lewis Hamilton, and we're trying to see if we can make a move, but he's going defensive into this next corner, and he will stay ahead of us. But that's been a very good, well, I say it's been a very good start for us, not really, because we started P8. It's been a good start, but we're only P7, so although it looked like we made a lot of positions, it was more just retaking the positions that we kind of lost off the line from Stroll, Verstappen and almost Magnussen. And we also, that one up that we got was on Pierre Gasly, who has fallen down past behind the 2 Red Bulls quite quickly. Verstappen's actually gotten ahead of Stroll as well, so although Stroll is on the soft tyres, Verstappen seems to have had a better start here. And of course, I mean, the team should really be preferring Verstappen at the moment, because we're at the halfway point in the season now, and he is leading the championship. Stroll is a fair way behind, so it should very much be Verstappen in charge at Red Bull. As we continue on, up ahead of us, looks like Sainz is going rather slowly, and yes, he's into the pits. Carlos Sainz from the second row of the grid is into the pits on lap 1. He must have a little bit of damage. That promotes us up to P6 now. So that is crazy. Let's have a look at what happened here at the start. Sainz actually had a very good start ahead of Leclerc. Well, he's side by side with Leclerc, but he's then got Valtteri Bottas in front of him and makes contact with Bottas through turn 1, loses a bit of his front wing end plate, and that is why he has had to come in for a wing change. Bottas and Leclerc fighting each other through this first part of the lap as well. Of course, Bottas started P2 in this race on the front row, and Leclerc P3, but Leclerc's managed to get past Bottas at the start of this race, but Lando Norris still leads the way, and he's actually been given a little bit of a gap at the front, as now Verstappen is having a look at us on lap number 5 up the inside of turn 1. He's definitely a lot quicker than us in that Red Bull car. It is a much quicker car, and once again he's looking now round the outside of the next corner, just showing the grip that he has, but he can't quite do it. We're going to try and defend from him for as long as we can here, but we're in a bit of a sticky position because with defending from the 2 Red Bulls, we're losing time to Hamilton and the rest of the grid up ahead. Like I said, Norris is currently leading the way for TGL Motorsport. This is the first time, I think, that TGL, one of our cars, has actually legitimately led a race. So that is awesome. If Norris, it's awesome if Norris can convert this to a win. It'll also be a little bit sad for me if Norris is the first one to get our team's win, because we haven't had a win in this whole career mode, 3 seasons in, and we haven't had a win yet. So it'd be crazy if Norris does it, but I'd rather it be me, to be completely honest, as a couple of laps later we actually let Verstappen pass, because I've realised Verstappen is a lot quicker than us. We're losing time to the cars ahead, so I'm going to let Verstappen pass and try and stay within his DRS and have him pull us towards the cars ahead, because he is probably the quickest car on track at the moment. As Daniel Ricciardo, with I think he had a grid penalty, or just not, yeah, no, he did have a grid penalty, is trying to make his way back through the order again, is finding himself side by side with Alexander Albon in the Williams, and they're going side by side through that first sector there, and he's not quite got the position made yet actually. Albon's still ahead, and there we go, he is staying ahead at the moment. Ricciardo will have to wait until the next lap around. He's a bit closer behind Albon this time around with DRS. He's going to go to the outside this time. They're still going to be side by side as they go through turn 1 here, but it's Ricciardo on the outside this time, and it gives him a great slingshot around the outside, and this time he's got the position up. He's got up that position and will make his way forward to the next Williams of Kevin Magnussen, who's actually in, I think, P9 at the moment. You can see up in the top left there. For us, we just about were managing to stay within DRS of Verstappen. I think at this point we've just come out of DRS range, but he has now caught up to the rest of the field and will get slowed down by them. So now it's going to kind of be 7 cars all within, the top 7 are all going to be within DRS of each other in a DRS train, which is pretty crazy, and we have a look at that here. So we've got Lando Norris at the front of this train here, leading the whole train along, still doing a very good job to stay ahead of what are supposed to be quicker cars behind him. You've then got this big train, you've got Charles Leclerc in second place, then Valtteri Bottas, followed by George Russell, Lewis Hamilton, then Max Verstappen, and then myself, and then there's a bit of a gap back to Gasly, the next car behind. Lap number 16, I think that is, we are coming into the pits along with Lewis Hamilton actually up ahead. Pretty much everyone else staying out on track, probably coming in the next lap around. So we're on to a set of hard compound tyres. It's a good pit stop from the team, and we'll see whether we can get an undercut on some of the cars ahead. Will they get a bit of an overcut on ours? We'll have to wait and see as we come out of the pits, and we're only just coming out ahead of the Haas of, I think that's Robert Schwartzman in the Haas there, only just coming out ahead of him. Next lap around, Norris and Leclerc are into the pits, as well as Russell behind, but that is Valtteri Bottas. He's staying out for another lap, so he's going 1 lap longer than everybody else to try and get an overcut on the cars ahead of him. Currently sitting in P3, he comes into the pits that next lap around, lap number 18, and it has worked out a treat for Bottas and McLaren. He's gone from P3 to P1. Lando Norris has lost the lead of the race. He has a little bit of a look round the outside, but can't quite do anything at the moment. Bottas has got to warm up his tyres, but at this point in time he's got track position. This is a difficult track to overtake on, so Bottas gone from 3rd to 1st in the pit stop phase. That is big for him and McLaren. As we continue on, still very much in this train here, with a big gap behind us to Lance Stroll, the next car. He's doing the soft to medium one stop by the looks of it, unless he's maybe going to go into another set of mediums or softs at the end. I'm not 100% sure, but yeah, we're kind of just stuck in this bit of a DRS train at the moment. Carlos Sainz trying to make his way through the grid here after that lap 1 incident pushed him all the way to the back of the grid. But then Robert Schwartzman has just driven into the side of Carlos Sainz. May have been some side pod damage for Sainz there as well, but definitely some front wing damage. His full front wing has gone for Robert Schwartzman, so he's going to have to now come into the pits. That's pretty much ruined his race, but he's got to go on for a whole lap now without a front wing. And look at all these cars behind him. That's Yuki Tsunoda and Zhou Guanyu now battling it out, kind of been shoved together thanks to Schwartzman leading this massive gaggle of cars. Look at all these bloody cars. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I think there's like 8 cars there, maybe even 9 cars in this train. Tsunoda manages to stay ahead of Zhou at this current point in time. They're coming to the next braking zone, and that is the other Alfa Romeo of Dan Ticktum going for a big dive bomb on, I think that was Ocon, and well, now he's alongside Liam Lawson in the Aston Martin car. There's Schwartzman coming into the pits for his front wing change. Liam Lawson not able to do anything around that final corner, but with DRS and a good run, he comes up behind the Alfa Romeo driver. It's 3 wide as they go into turn 1. Lawson has to back out of that one. Ocon has gone for the move on Dan Ticktum, and he's got it done. However, Ticktum has got a better run, and he's going to try and stick himself up the inside. This has been a terrible race for Alpine, might I just say, because Latifi had a bad qualifying. Ocon ended up taking a grid penalty, so these guys are right down the back of the field. So it has been a dismal race once again, to be honest, for Alpine, as Schumacher and Lawson go side by side through the fast left-hander. Mick Schumacher ends up coming out on top of that one, so some pretty awesome battles going on further back there because of Schwartzman's issues. And for Schwartzman, it doesn't get any better, because a few laps later he has an engine failure of some kind. No smoke coming out of the car, but he's got a failure of some kind, and he's going to have to pull over. It's been a dismal race weekend for him and for Haas in general, to be honest, because even Schumacher way down the back of the grid, and Haas actually brought some upgrades to this race weekend and jumped themselves up a bit, so not great from them. As we're now having a look at Verstappen, because he's getting held up by Hamilton up ahead. We've gone for a dive up the inside. We're now going to be on the outside for this next corner. We try and hang it around the outside, but it's not going to work. We end up getting past him, but we went off the track, so I let Verstappen back through, because I thought that was a little bit of a cheeky, illegal overtake in my opinion. Although the game wouldn't have done anything, I didn't feel like it was right, so I gave him the position back. Sainz trying to go for a move on Albon, and Albon has actually gone for a move on Sebastian Vettel. Yes, Vettel is in this race. He's a little bit higher up than that other gaggle of cars, so doing a good job in that Aston Martin. Although the Aston Martin is still the worst car on the grid, they have brought a few upgrades and are getting closer to that back of the pack kind of grid, the back of the pack, I guess. Vettel trying to hold on through the fast left-hander, some more side-by-side action, but can't do it, and Albon now gets ahead of him, so that's very good from him, going from being attacked by Sainz to attacking and overtaking Vettel. Now lap number 31, I can't quite read it. We once again get a good run on Verstappen. This time we're going to go to the outside of this corner, and we're going to try and brake later, stick ourselves round the outside. That's going to give us the inside for the next corner, and we get the move done. We're up ahead of Max Verstappen. I think this might actually be the final lap of the race. We're not quite going to be able to catch up to Hamilton. He actually has a really good final lap here and breaks, well, almost, I think, breaks DRS from us in the end. Actually, I think he did break DRS from us at the detection point. He's going to finish in P5. We finished P6. Verstappen P7. It was an okay race. There was a few battles here and there. Definitely not the worst race of the season. Not quite the best, but still, it was a decent one.
A beautiful performance from McLaren today. Natalie Pinkham, how do you think they were able to set themselves apart today?
I think it was clear what the main contributing factor out of the track was: speed. It sounds like an awfully reductive statement, but fast cars win races, and we saw that today with our winner.
Our drivers are making their way out for the podium celebrations, and it's going to be McLaren picking up the winner's trophy. Congratulations to the entire team for that fantastic performance.
So Bottas is back on the top step of the podium, first time since he was at Mercedes in 2021. It's his first time winning a Grand Prix in this career mode of ours, and the first time winning with McLaren as well. It's McLaren's first win of this season. They had a few wins last season, a couple with Lando Norris, but haven't quite had that luck this season. But this time around, despite going from second to fourth in the R&D from last race weekend, Bottas has brought the win home today. That strategy really worked out for him at the end there. Just great pit stop strategy, and in the end he actually pulled away from Norris and the rest of the grid. Norris comes home for another P2 finish, so it's back-to-back podiums for Norris and Leclerc on the final step of the podium. In the Drivers' Championship, Bottas moves up to 5th now with that race win. Lando Norris stays 6th. We drop from 5th to 7th, so it's a swap between me and Bottas. So we are now on the back foot once again behind our teammate. Norris is just absolutely pulling out all the stops at the moment. Really difficult to catch up to him, where he's just super consistent at the moment. You know, 3 podiums in the last 4 or 5 races is amazing in our car. And there's a few switches around at the bottom of the grid as well. And in the Constructors, nothing changes. Ferrari still lead from Red Bull. It's only 17 points between them. And then McLaren in 3rd. We are in 4th. We are only 5 points, I believe, behind McLaren for P3 in the championship. So, especially with how good Norris is doing at the moment, I still think we can fight for P3 in the Constructors' Championship. Williams also move up to 9th, past Haas. They're both on 1 point, but Williams, I guess, with a better second finish or whatever. So yeah, that's going to be it for this video, guys. Thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed, please go ahead, like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video.